Carole Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, where we find out what's happening with the county mayor's county. Roger Sanderson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to be here and kind of wrap up over the last 30 days the different activities that have occurred in our community, and we're also beginning. I was driving somewhere last night on the way to another meeting, and it was about 5:20, and I was thinking it's still daylight. It's nice.
I know.
The seasons are getting longer, and of course,
with the gray skies, sometimes it gets dark a little earlier, but...
Well, the days are getting longer, and the shortest day of the year was December the 21st, and longest day is in June. Is that right?
June 21st.
I'm testing my history, my mental ability this early in the morning, but
But the change in seasons come up March. The next one's March 21st.
Well, and if you've lived in Tennessee any length of time, you know you're going to have 4 distinct season changes. Now, this year's been
crazy.
It's been crazy. Is that the word you use? The weather just seems to go up in the 70 one day, 30s the next.
And I don't think I've ever experienced as many gray days in a year in Tennessee.
I think we're all ready for the sunshine to get out, to give us a little bit of vitamins and what is it, B12, B3,
and that
something.
Seasonal depression that you get from the winter, it's just, ugh.
And just staying in your house.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and just the humidity, that stickiness from the rain and the cold, and it goes right through you. And
you think that has something
ready.
to do with our age?
No.
Well,
I'm over it. I'm ready for it to stop.
And speaking of that, just in the last few weeks, particularly in the last 2 to 4 weeks, we've lost some key people. Founders of Williamson County. And you always hate to start naming people's names, but without question, Mrs. Bowman, Mrs. Hardcastle,
and Miss Abernathy.
Mrs. Abernathy, the loss of those individuals to our community. I think it's worthy of noting that on your show as we travel around the county and what's happening, because all 3 of these people played such an important part of helping to determine who we are today.
They did. They really did. And what's also lovely is that Miss Bowman she worked so hard to tell the history of how we even got to where she started. And tell the stories of the families that lived here before most of us got here.
Well, and I heard Mrs. Bowman was one of my special people. I just loved sitting. You've heard sitting at the feet and learning.
Yeah.
When I had that opportunity, it wasn't all the time, and it had been very little in the last year or two. But the history, the stories she would tell, and I mean, very few people realize, like on my lapel here, and it's
the Great Seal.
It's the seal of Williamson County, and her and Mr. Armistead helped develop that seal. It's something that's very important to our community. Then you think about Mrs. Hardcastle, and I did not know it, but in talking to one of her children, Loy, that there was a movie out several years ago, I guess I'm showing my age, but there was a team of young ladies during World War II that were playing baseball. And while the men were away...
there was a movie about that.
That's right, and I forgot the name of the movie, Field of Dreams, or... No, that doesn't sound right. No. What was the name of the movie? Somebody help.
League of Their Own.
Thank you. And... so these ladies, while the men were away at war, World War II, they wanted to continue to have baseball in the United States. And so this was started, this movie made. Well, she had an opportunity to go do that.
Oh, my Lord.
And she, according to Loy, she turned it down, but she was that good of a baseball player.
Wow.
She was extremely talented in the area of sports, and of course her and her husband and family moved here and started Hardcastle Motors, and it was a main automobile dealership in downtown Franklin for years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Excuse me.
So yeah, And we seem to go through periods like this. I think we went through a period like this several years ago, where all of a sudden we lost several of the people that helped shape what Williamson County is today. The visionaries who realized that in order for this county to become a mover and a shaker, for lack of a better word, we needed to improve education standards, and there were certain things that needed to be done within the community to make it a community what it is today. People moving here think that it's always this way, but you can read some of those books, like the one Miss Louise wrote. It wasn't always a peaceful place. It was the Wild West of Williamson County.
It was, and just this week I was over at BGA, and they were having at the middle school, and you were there, and recognizing the contribution of the Afro-American during the early Civil War era. Now, that's 100 plus years ago, in 1860 and 60. And one of the children did some artwork and poster work and try to understand that era of history. And I was reading on there were more slaves in Williamson County during that era of time than there were
white people.
Than there were free white people. And so when you think of that, and 150 years ago, where we are today, how everything has changed. And I hope working for the better, I hope demonstrating in our community that we are a community of love and a community of a lot of changes going on and a lot of different personalities and dialects and people coming in. Matt Largent tells the story that coming into our community now, living in our community now, I think it's 54% of the people that live in Williamson County were not born in this state.
Yeah. And that's the thing, in the state, not even just in the county.
Now, forget the county.
Yeah.
And when I go out, I was out at Summit High School this week, a couple of days, kind of talking about civics and how it's important for them, for the young people to be involved. And these were all seniors. And so you've seen me do it, where I asked how many people were born and raised here.
Right.
Now, a lot of these seniors, you would think, okay, that's possible. Very few of the 5, 6 in a classroom, but 25 or 30, so 20, 25%. And then if you ask the question, how many of them were your parents born and raised here, it drops down
to
considerable.
like 2 or 3.
And it's just that community. So we're all the problem of this traffic. We're all the problem of this growth, and it just depends when we landed here, when we got here.
Yeah, exactly. And we're losing the people that were born and raised here, and their parents were born and raised here, or they were born and raised here, and their parents came at an early time. And they produced 2 or 3 generations already that, with the great grandkids.
Well, hats off to those ladies for what they contributed. They will be recorded extremely notable in the history and years to come, and to them and their families we give our condolences, but they contributed so much to our community.
Yeah, and I hope that the community continues to remember people like that this community just didn't appear. It took a lot of vision and a lot of hard work from a lot of people.
Well, the final thing I'll say on that is that we are changing. You and I have been here about the same time, and we've watched our communities grow in 35 and 40 and 40% numbers, population from one decade to the next. In 2010, we had about 183,000 people. In 2020, we'll be coming up on in a couple of years, we're going to be somewhere shy of 222 to 225,000 people. So we've grown. Yeah, we're at 250,000 people. We've grown about 40,000 people in a 10-year window. And we're being told by those people that do the calculations and how your community what that'll look like. By the year 2040, we will have a completely doubling of our population, so we'll have 400,000 people. And in that period, in 2040, which is just 12 short years away, we will be the size of what Davidson County is now.
Oh, my Lord.
So you have to do this planning. You have to get with cities and counties that trying to work together for one common goal.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost in panic mode to do it. But speaking of panic mode, we had the incident in Florida and with the tragedy where 17 people were killed, and the schools and the county are getting together and talking.
Very sad. I don't know, I've heard reports of how many incidents that we've had just in 2018. One is too many for me.
Right.
And so Dr. Looney, he's the school superintendent. He's in charge of the security, the buildings, everything that has to do with schools. And so he asked for a period of time that the staff and law enforcement could sit down and review the procedures and policies that our schools have for all of our children. And are there things that we could do to better improve? Now, they're constantly looking at it. But when something like that happens, it just kind of puts that sickening feeling in your stomach. And
Need to really reevaluate.
yeah, and is there something we could even improve on? Several years ago, when the incident happened up in the New England area, I think it was called Sandy Hook.
In Connecticut, yeah.
There were multiple deaths with our children, and that caused Williamson County. At that time, we did not have student SROs in all of our schools. We had them in our high schools. Within 30 days, we had funding approved. Within 60 days, we had funding approved, and people lined up to start staffing every single school, including the Franklin Special School District. We brought forth a proposal, the commissioner signed off on it, and since that time, we've had SROs in every one of our schools.
And the schools have been redone. Anytime you try to get into a school now, you must go. You can't just walk into the school. There is a pattern you have to take, a path of signing in, identifying yourself. And you can't just, like I said, you cannot just walk in the school, which can be a pain in the neck.
I think I hear your phone ringing. So, when we talk about security in our schools, I'm very aware of what everybody's role and part is. And so I think it's time to evaluate that.
And do we need to do something different or go further? I took an active shooter class through the Franklin Police Department, and is that something that we should introduce to school personnel and students?
Well, the law, we're restricted on some things we can do within the law about handguns and weapons. I'm not going to get into that discussion this morning. I am a strong advocate for that amendment. And I've never deviated from that. But I do think that all of us have to reevaluate that these things that are happening is it issues within school and security?
Is it a symptom of something
That's
else?
right. Is it something at home? Is it mentally? And I think all of us agree that none of us have one single answer to solve this problem. But we have to make every effort to make our students safe when they're at school. From the time they enter those doors to the time they go home, they're responsible of the school system. And we need good teachers. I mean, how sad is it that two of those teachers down in Florida, from what I can understand, protected other students, their students with their body. And we hear that time after time after time. some good will come out of us reevaluating.
Right, right.
But it's still very sad.
It is very sad, and my heart goes out to the families who lost children or loved ones, and the community who it will be changed forever.
It's time to hit the pause button and reevaluate.
It really is. Speaking of reevaluating, we've got an election coming up, and boy, we've got a lot of people interested in running for office here.
So
There's been times when there was the whole commission went without opposition, and this time there's a lot of people interested.
So on those even years, every 4 years, it's statutory across the state of Tennessee, from the mayor's office all the way down. Just about everything other than judges are running. Your county commission, half of your school board, register of deeds, trustee, clerk, you name it. It's across the board. We have 24 county commission. We have 12 school districts. We have, and
6 of those are up for.
6 of those. I can't remember if they're even or odd right now, but half runs this time and half will run the next time.
Yeah.
But all the 24 commissioners are up on the ballot. The state representatives races. So let's kind of talk about it a little bit. So the Republicans and the Democrats have each called for a primary. That primary will be held on May the 1st. And out of that, whatever race you're talking about, so if it's a county commissioner and everybody's running in the Republican or the Democratic, whoever wins, they face each other off if there is another candidate in August, and we call that the general election. And whoever wins the August election takes office on September the 1st of 2018.
Except for the state representatives.
State representatives,
They have
their own primary that comes along in August. Whoever wins there, then they run again in November.
Yeah.
So you would think we could all get on the same ballot, but that doesn't. That's not the way the law is written, and so or the election processes work. Clearly, though, this year on the county commission side, of the 24 men and women that are serving, now they serve. There's 2 per district. So in those 12 districts that are running, there are many candidates running. There's as few as 2 or 3. Now, if you had 2, it's over.
Yeah.
If you have 3, you have a race. And some of them have as many as 5, 6, and 7 individuals running.
Incredible.
For the spot. I would be curious. I have not asked this question, but why all of a sudden is there interest? Was it the sales tax referendum that we just finished having, of which 66% of the people said raise the sales tax by 0.5, 50 cents on $100? Is it the conversation you're having through your paper and through the radio and shows like this that is about schools and about the quality of life here? What is driving this? Is it at the national level? Are conversations or actions occurring in Washington or in Nashville that's causing more people to be involved? Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I personally think it's good for citizens to have a choice.
Right.
But in order to have a choice, you have to go to the ballot.
Yeah.
It costs the same to run that ballot as it with, what'd you say, 60?
60 candidates.
60 some odd people involved. If we didn't have but one person, we have to run the ballot. So to have all these candidates on there, it's going to be an interesting journey down history over the next 60 or 90 days. So we're taping this show in February. It's showing late February, 1st of March. May 1st, it's over. Early voting starts in April.
Oh, my gosh.
So I was, last night, I actually I live in the 9th district, and there are 4 individuals, I think, running for that. And so one of them was having get to know the candidate. And so I went to get to know the candidate and listen to who's going to represent me in that district. Now, I live there, and I want to know not only who I'm working with, but I also want to know a little bit more about the candidate. and they had 24 people, but I'll try to make those trips. I'm interested in my district, but I'm also interested in who are those men and women running from all over our county.
Yeah. It is interesting. Now, unfortunately, we've also had a couple of county commissioners say they're not going to be running again.
That's correct.
So it's an open seat, basically. So it's even more imperative to know who is running for that empty seat.
We just I don't know how to stress to people the importance of getting out and knowing the candidates and knowing the importance of the issues. You may have a special interest in schools. Fine, study the issues.
Right.
Study those men and women that say they want to represent you. Study your mayor. See what his philosophy. I've been around long enough now. I've got a track record.
Yeah.
I've got a history.
Right.
And chances are I'm not going to deviate too much from that. As we all know, spots don't really roll off a dog. They just turn gray. And I can say that very honestly. So, know your candidates, and I hope
And
wish-
vote.
And
I
vote.
mean, that's
We will have less than 25% vote in the county
and
elections.
that's very sad, considering that this is the government that affects you the most.
Absolutely.
Washington think they affect you the most, but this is the
They
government.
affect you mentally.
Yeah, they drive you crazy.
I'm not going there, Carole.
But this is the government and this is the government you have control over.
That's right. You can see me at the local grocery store.
Exactly.
You can see me in just about anywhere, walking around.
And you can and people can call your phone, and you're the one that answers,
right.
not your secretary. And I'll give him the message type thing.
Yeah, you have access to every individual here, and in the bigger cities, that's harder.
Yep.
We're a big community now, 215 to 220,000 people. That's a large responsibility. It's a large amount of money.
It's a large number of issues.
And in growing communities, you're going to have those issues.
Yeah.
It's how do you pay for things? How do we get around? What are we going to do about this? Amplified, multiplied.
It's
maybe-
hard. It's hard to even be proactive because you're always reacting
right.
because it's been so fast.
Well, there are 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. And of course, we all know the big cities and the big counties, Memphis and Nashville and Chattanooga and Knoxville. But we're right on there with them.
Yeah.
Maybe not in terms of total population yet, but we've got those issues. We've got those scenarios we're trying to find solutions for. Because if I hear anything repeated to me over and over and over, please don't let us get like Atlanta.
Yeah.
Please don't let us get like, you name the city. People still to this day feel like that Williamson County has that small town feeling. Now, you can get that small town feeling in any of our cities, whether it's Brentwood or Nolensville or Franklin, Spring Hill, Thompson Station, Fairview. Those cities are great partners of us, and we want to be great partners for them so that we can all collectively create a place that is good for us to live and work and worship in and raise our families.
Yeah, and it's beautiful too. And I had the opportunity last Friday. I had to, because of a story I was working on, I had to kind of just drive around the county and take pictures of black churches, and especially the old ones. Some started in 1869, 1870, and we've got so much beautiful rural country. And when people say, oh, well, it's so crowded in Williamson County, all it is roads and houses and stuff. Get out of the corridor and just take a ride. Don't move there, but take a ride.
About 56% of our land mass is not developed.
Right. Now, I remember when it was 75%, but Still, it's good.
And the
yeah.
cities are different from the counties in the way that we operate and perform. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out ways to work together.
And we've got our end of the day here.
I believe he said we got about 3 minutes to go.
No, he said 0. So it was good talking to you, and it's good to see you again. And we'll see you next time on County Happenings.
Bowie Nature Park is located in Fairview, Tennessee. The park was founded by Dr. Evangeline Bowie, who loved nature and enjoyed the outdoors. She purchased this 722-acre forest in the mid-1950s, hoping to plant nearly 500,000 loblolly pine trees to prevent an ongoing loss of soil. Dr. Bowie's plans for land management also included creating several man-made lakes with the use of a bulldozer and an expansive, effective hydrology system. In 1992, Dr. Bowie passed away, but as the city of Fairview had already been deeded the property, work continued as planned. Walking trails were laid out and developed with hopes for a park in the near future. In 2003, Bowie Nature Park was finally completed and opened to the public.
We're about 700 acres that was donated to us, the city of Fairview, by Dr. Evangeline Bowie. Miss Bowie and her 3 sisters, or 2 sisters, own this land, and they decided to give it to the city of Fairview, so we have this wonderful nature park. We have 15 miles of trail. It's unique in that we have horseback riding and mountain bike riding all on the same trails, along with hiking and running trails as well. Fishing is a favorite pastime by many of our visitors. So at Bowie Park, we have several different shelters that are available for rental by people have come out for birthday parties and family reunions, even weddings out here. We have the outdoor classroom that is perfect for a wedding venue. We use that for our education programs, and our education programs have grown over the last 5 or 6 years. We have our Camp Bowie that runs 6 weeks out of the summer. We also have summer groups from different YMCAs and school groups that come out. And this month we probably had about 500 kids that have come through that program.
Bowie Nature Park is a fine example of the many wonderful opportunities there are to experience nature and get outdoors in Williamson County.